So I'm kind of past due of making a Fortnite video by like 4 months, but anyways, here we are, my first Fortnite video, which is actually just talking about how Overwatch and Fortnite kind of relate to each other, and why a lot of people in the Overwatch community don't really like Fortnite or the Fortnite community way too much. Now, before we begin, I do want to say that myself personally, I don't have way too much beef against the game of Fortnite. I think that's generally pretty fun. I can play it for an hour or two with some friends, and, you know, like any other game with friends, it can be enjoyable, you can have some funny moments, and go through all of that. So if you enjoy the game, you know, that's perfectly fine. Everybody can play what they want to play, honestly. But I want to go over today why a lot of people are getting kind of upset with this community, and why it seems like there's so many people in the Overwatch community that just really don't want to play this game. With that said though, guys, let's get started. Now, I think the most obvious and first thing I want to come to here in this video is talking about the Overwatch YouTube scene. Because if you're watching this video, well, you'll watch probably a lot of YouTube and probably a lot of Overwatch YouTube or a lot of Fortnite YouTube. And I think that for the majority of the community, I guess this won't matter way too much, but for the people watching this video, I think this will be very applicable. A lot of players I know and a lot of people I know are kind of getting angry that their favorite content creators have moved over to Fortnite. And you know, that's just kind of how it is. There's a lot of reasons for people to move over there. More views, a new enjoyable game, different people to play with, a change of situation, maybe they're getting really bored of Overwatch, whatever it could be. You know, whatever the content creator's reason for changing, that's completely up to them, and that's fine. But as far as a viewer goes, it feels like you're kind of being betrayed. It feels like the person you've been watching for one type of content for years or at least months is just kind of throwing you in the dust and saying, hey, I'm moving over to something new, something more popular. And I think character like Muselk is somebody that we saw this a lot with. I mean, he's been moving around from game to game for a long time, but a lot of people are really getting used to his Overwatch videos, and at a certain point, now they're kind of angry at him for switching it up. Now, I do want to say another thing about this other than, you know, just switching to a new game. That happens all the time. I think especially having these content creators switch to Fortnite makes so a lot of the creators kind of try to appeal to a younger audience, which is fine, but if you're a person that's been watching a YouTuber for a long time and they suddenly start talking, not really in a condescending tone, but in a tone that fits younger audiences, and that could be more, you know, appealing to a younger audience, I don't know, I feel like that happens quite often when moving on to this game because that's just where the demographic is. I mean, there are a lot of people from, you know, older to younger, but there's more younger people in Fortnite than Overwatch. That's just how it is. And when you have one of your favorite people change how they're talking, change how they're expressing their ideas, and maybe you're thinking that they're becoming less mature, that can be really frustrating, and that can make you feel like even if this is, you know, the same YouTuber, even if I like this game, I don't really like the YouTuber anymore because he has changed and isn't exactly the same, and I think that is kind of a big problem. Now, another thing I want to say right here is that other than just the YouTubers, Fortnite has also gotten a lot of people to have their friends kind of leave the game, and it gave a really good reason to stop playing Overwatch. There's a new game on the scene that had a somewhat similar graphical style to Overwatch that, you know, could kind of appeal to both crowds, and a lot of your friends probably stopped playing Overwatch for this reason and left to play the newer, brighter game that more people were playing. And that's just kind of how it always goes. There's something new, people are going to try it out, people are going to change. But if you're a person that really, really enjoys Overwatch and really wants to keep playing the game that you've been playing for years, yeah, especially when you have just this big wave of people leaving for a new game, that can be really frustrating and can make you really hate this new game. Even though it's not really the game's fault, it's just something that kind of happens. Now, I also want to mention something right here. A lot of the times, you know, your friends would switch to the new game, you know, they switch to Fortnite, and then you'd switch to Fortnite and played a little bit. But a problem is that in a lot of cases, maybe you don't like the core gameplay of Fortnite, and that happens to me somewhat. You know, I don't really want to grind that game for hours on end every single day. And if my friends do, these are the same friends that used to play a lot of Overwatch with me, then yeah, that is frustrating. The core appeal of playing with my friends on the same game for a long time is now kind of gone. It's been replaced by forcing me to play a new game that I don't really like way too much. And I think that's a big reason why a lot of people in the Overwatch community don't like the Fortnite community, because it has made, you know, some of their best experiences and best friends to play Overwatch with kind of gone away. And yeah, if you don't like the new game way too much, whatever new popular game it is, in this case Fortnite, it's frustrating. It's very, very frustrating. Now, another thing I want to go into right here is that I think the Fortnite in general does not appeal to the same crowd of players as Overwatch, or at least as very competitive Overwatch players. And I think this is also a frustrating thing for a lot of Overwatch players, because in a lot of cases, the Overwatch community has a lot of casual players and a lot of competitive players. And I think a good chunk of the casual player base went off to Fortnite. A good chunk of the competitive did too, but most of them have kind of come back because they realized that's not way too competitive. But yeah, a huge chunk of the casual player base left, and it's just kind of been gone. And if you're a competitive player that had a lot of friends that were still pretty casual and you used to play with them quite often, that leaves you in a really hard spot because, again, do you leave to this new game that's inherently pretty luck-based that you can't really put in way too much time to get better at, so that you can play with your friends that you've been playing with forever that are pretty casual, or do you not? That's kind of the situation a lot of people are put in, and I think the Fortnite is pretty much a frustrating game if you are someone that's extremely competitive, because there is no real goal to work towards. You can get a better KDA and a better win rate, but no one really cares. And if you're a person that's been, really hooked into a competitive season of Overwatch and you really like to prove your rank and really like to prove your worth, yeah, I don't really feel like Fortnite can kind of fit that. And I think when you add all that together, it can make you not really like the new game. In this case, again, Fortnite, way too much. Now, I'm going to switch off to another thing right here, which is mainly, I think, why players in general may not like Fortnite way too much from Overwatch, and that is that I think the Fortnite in general is not quite as team-based as Overwatch. And yeah, in a lot of the ranks of Overwatch competitive, it's still not way too team-based. In a lot of the ranks, people are just deathmatching. But in general, there is, for the most part, a good 2-2-2 type of comp, 2 tanks, 2 supports, 2 DPS. You in general kind of know where to stand, and it feels, pretty understandable, and it feels like you're kind of playing a similar game every single round. A game like Fortnite feels more, I think, like quick play, and that's kind of how I want to put it right here, which is fine. And if you want to play a really quick, hectic match, you have that. If you want to play a match where you got to get in close, hit him with the shotguns, Reaper, or with the shotguns in Fortnite, you can have that. And in general, it feels a lot like the deathmatch mode in Overwatch. But as you may have noticed, the majority of players playing Overwatch don't really play for the deathmatch mode. A good chunk do, but I think a bigger chunk probably play to have that good competitive feeling, to have that good, worth of team coordination. And even though, again, you can play in squads in Fortnite, I don't really feel like it's exactly the same at all. You do have some stuff that you're doing together, but you really don't have to rely on each other as much. You could theoretically split apart, and while you would be at a man disadvantage, it's not exactly the same. You really do rely on your teammates in Overwatch, which is just kind of different. And maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. I know a lot of people in Overwatch hate relying on their teammates, but for a good chunk of players, having that difference, I think, is, again, quite frustrating. And I feel like the final thing I want to talk about right here, not about Music or Elia or any of those people, but the final thing that I think is really important to mention here is that Fortnite in general feels kind of like it's stabbing Overwatch in the back. And that's what I think a lot of players are kind of thinking, because it feels like the game is dying. And I wish we could really see the statistics of Overwatch, because, in that case, we could probably prove that wrong. I'm sure there are a ton of players still playing Overwatch, a ton of players enjoying it. But, if just one of your friends quits the game to play Fortnite, it really feels kind of like the end of the world. And I think a lot of people playing Overwatch just don't like this new game because it feels like this new game coming out is killing their old game that they've loved for so long. And that really sucks. Again, though, I would like to remind you guys that that's not always how it is, and I don't really think this is going to be the case. We essentially thought at the beginning of Overwatch's life that it was going to kill TF2. What's happened? It hasn't. And those are way more similar than Overwatch and Fortnite. And while, yeah, maybe a good amount of the community will be sucked up into the new trend, and maybe they'll be playing it for a while, and maybe they'll even never play Overwatch again, there's still going to be a good amount of people that you can come to, that you can become friends with, and in some situations, at least in TF2's case, it can even create a better community, because if there's only the people that really like Overwatch left, that really want to play the game, that really want to get better, or at least that really just, like how it works out, well, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That makes it that every single game that you play will probably be a much better game, a much higher quality game. And again, while the numbers might be lower on paper or even in your head, maybe upping the experience isn't the worst thing in the world. But anyways, there you guys go. That's all my opinions about why I think a lot of Overwatch players really don't like Fortnite so much, and why a lot of them are kind of angered at the game, and talking about why I guess it may not be the worst thing in the world that Fortnite has showed up. As well, I do want to remember to mention again that, I don't hate this new game. Fortnite, I think, is pretty fun, not my favorite game, but, you know, don't get that vibe from me at all. I just want to explain why a lot of players, again, you know, are frustrated with this game. And there you go with that. Anyways, as always, guys, though, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like, hit the subscribe button to see more videos like this in the future about Overwatch, because I'm going to keep making videos about that. And as always, guys, thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful day.